What's up, Mo? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Recovery. I am your host, Mo. And today we are on episode number 19. Wow. Okay. So it's been a long time coming. We are currently on season 4, and we are on a new topic here. Today's topic is authentic leadership when recovery meets real world power. This episode, we will explore authentic leadership, how it's born from lived experience, and how recovery teaches the same emotional intelligence, resilience, and self awareness needed to lead in the real world. Um, Tune in because we have a guest speaker. Our guest speaker and I will sit down and kind of break down how lived experience shapes leadership, transforms systems, and redefine what success looks like for those rising from recovery. Y'all, we are welcoming Emanuel Solomon. Okay, Emanuel Solomon um, is welcome here on Real Talk Recovery because he's actually a mentor in our community here in Portland, Oregon. He's a people skills coach for high performing professionals of color or all ethnic groups, helping them communicate with confidence, lead with authentic um, authentic skills and make power moves that shift cultures. He's also the owner and CEO of Emanuel Solomon Training and Coaching. And you can always find him on his website, culturalcompetencecoach.com.
Or Emmanuel
Emmanuel
Solomon.
works
Also, EmmanuelSolomon.com. We
and
just, yeah, EmmanuelSolomon.com. You can find me there.
very good. Emmanuel's work sits right at the intersection of leadership, emotional intelligence, and cultural awareness. Three things that don't just build strong professionals; they also build very strong recoveries. Today, we're talking about how it will impact the recovery community and how it would help heal our entire city or even expand beyond the city. Y'all, welcome Emmanuel Solomon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm happy to be on the show. Really fortunate. We've already worked together, and I think that we've done some great work already. But this was a great opportunity to be able to be on your show. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do appreciate it. Emmanuel, can you give us a brief description of what it looks like to be you in your world, your daily routine? How do a leader like you get started in your day? What does your typical workday look like?
I wake up just like everybody else. I have a certain set of tasks that I have to accomplish within a certain amount of time. One thing that I have to do is make sure that I do my morning routine, which really consists of some kind of physical activity. I like to go to the gym. I like to, when I go to the gym, I actually meditate first before I get into my routine. Then I stretch, then I do my physical activity, and then start my day. So I really feel like physical activity, meditation to kind of get my mind, all that centers me so that I can take on the day.
Makes sense, absolutely. And that is part of the self care that we need, in everyday life to recover. Do you consider yourself to be a leader that has recovered from something or is currently recovering in your life of anything? Because we know that recovery looks different for everybody. But
Mhm.
if you were to choose a area in your life of recovery, what would that be?
Hmm. I never thought of it as recovery, but there's some areas in my life that I feel like I have grown from, that I feel like I've had to unlearn some things, and I've had to, develop a new mindset and mentality. And I think the biggest one for me is the change from being religious to being spiritual. I think that if you want to use recovery as a term, I've recovered from religion. I think that that's been a stumbling block to me, connecting with myself, connecting with nature, connecting with creator. And when I was able to move from that paradigm shift and get into what spirituality really means to me, I've been able to connect and have more intimacy with myself, with the creator, with the ancestors, with nature. I feel like I'm more in tune. I'm not adverse or I'm not in conflict. So that's been one of the biggest changes in my life in unlearning some of those religious, more dogmatic ideals.
That's amazing. And I heard you say, connecting to your spirituality, recovering from religion. And I believe that is something that is so common these days, being pressured to go by a whole nother way of life. And so we kind of like are forced to live these um self beliefs, or to live a lifestyle that we don't want to live, or to believe in things that is kind of forced upon us at a very young age.
Right.
And what empowers me about what you're saying is because of what you do. You have can you tell us about your current workshops that you do? Because I know I was in one of your workshops.
Yeah, you were
It
in
was
Black Habits. Yeah.
Black Habits. That
Yeah.
was an amazing
Yeah.
workshop, and it was all about breaking habits that no longer work for ourselves, and to discover new ones, and to strengthen the ones that is actually working. Can you break that down a little more? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
So
that kind of go hand in hand with what we're talking about here.
So some of the courses that I offer, and I kind of do them in a series, and I also do, basically taking black and brown professionals and even advocates of color through a coaching process. One of them is to understand what whiteness is, and I go through this navigating whiteness course to really help black and brown professionals understand what systemic whiteness is and how it impacts them on a personal and professional level. Then I have a course called um, a culture code, which is really understanding who you are, your indigenous, your African, your melanated roots, and how that actually impacts how you see emotional intelligence and how you connect with emotional intelligence. I've got another course that is called Cultural Emotional Intelligent Communication. This is teaching melanated professionals how to communicate with power to power. Because a lot of us, we feel powerless. We feel like we have to code switch. We feel like we have to become somebody else in these whitened environments and in these corporate environments, when really that's the opposite of what we need to do. And it's actually showing up in our negative health impacts, mental health, and all kinds of crises that we're dealing with. So those are three courses that really well, that I start people out with. And then I also have Black Power Routines, which helps you to set goals and develop a power routine. And then I've got Black Habits, which is what you took, which is how do you break and create the habits for success? Like,
Yeah.
how do we break the habits that are hurting success, and how do we create the habits that we need for success? How do we identify that and becoming more self-aware? So all these courses kind of overlap. They're all important. They're all very, very intricate and integral to you actually promoting and repositioning yourself in your career or business.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that because the Black Habits, I am a graduate of Black Habits. And after I took that course, I used everything you taught me in that time frame of my life. And it got me exactly where I need to be. However, when I look back on it, I said to myself, you kept saying, Mo, I really want you to take this corporate America. Which one is that one again? It's
I wanted you to take CEQ communication, because you were asking me a lot of questions about, like, how you show up and how do you ask for this and how do you advocate for this. I was like,
yeah.
you got to take this course next. So CEQ communication, I really want you to take that course when you get ready.
Yes. And there's another one for corporate America. What's that one that you said repeat?
Navigating whiteness is one of the bigger ones. Like you have to really understand what whiteness is and how it operates on a professional level,
Yeah,
and how we have to navigate these ideas in our mind. That's actually one of the more important things is we see, white power or white supremacy in various ways as better than us, as more than us, and sometimes we feel overwhelmed and powerless because we have not conceptualized it properly in our own minds, and that's
yeah,
why it really hurts us when we're in these corporate environments that are white dominant, and they use their power sometimes to make us feel inferior or to marginalize us or tokenize us. And we have more power than we actually think. And so in that course, I'm really talking about what whiteness is and how it expresses itself in ways to combat systemic whiteness or white power dynamics that you might see in work as a black or brown professional.
amazing. And that's exactly what I needed. I believe like I want to continue with your courses because after I started my career as a peer and started my um gained experience in the cultural specific background of
Mhm.
peership, there was I believe your course was needed for
Mhm.
whatever I was doing. And so I couldn't really advocate for myself the way I wanted to at that time because I don't believe I had the proper skills for that. So my question to you is, or at least from at least a statement, is more of do you believe, well, I believe that your courses can fit very well in the peership area
Mhm.
of the mental health and behavioral health
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
um, arena of social work.
Mhm.
Do you believe that it is possible to maybe suggest these your particular courses for peers that is certified peer
Oh,
specialists?
most definitely, because what I teach is elite level people skills, right? So everybody has to deal with themselves and has to deal with others. So cultural emotional intelligence deals with your own awareness of self, culture, and the social environment around you, and has you look more introspective at yourself and how to deal with your own emotions, how to deal with living in a world where it's hostile to be highly melanated, and dealing with all these things and having these conversations helps to unlock a lot of trauma and a lot of um, maybe false beliefs that are holding us down. And so that introspection helps us then communicate better because now once we have positioned ourselves properly and we know who we are and where we're going and what we want, then we can communicate. And I think that these courses that I teach are very, very applicable to helping peers figure out how to connect with themselves better and how to connect with others. That is so important. It's like the it skill. Emotional intelligence is the number one predictor of success among all job categories at all levels. So it's the it people skill to be able to deal with others, to be able to connect with others, to empathize with others and yourself first, right?
Right.
And be able to lead and influence. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're having conversations, right, with people and
Yes.
and learning how to relate with them on an emotional level and relate with yourself. So I think it all just ties hand in hand. So there's all kinds of courses that I provide and also that I'm able to provide that really would help in the peer services industry.
I really believe that too. Yeah, that's so amazing to me because it was so easy for me to connect with other peers, the clients. There's so many different names we can name our folks that is battling with addiction, mental health, and so forth, just going through hardship itself. So easy. But when it came down to me, and I'm sure other big steppers out there, other peers can relate to what I'm saying. When it came down to me relating to the folks that had the master's degrees, the bachelor's degrees, the higher up corporate level folks,
Hmm.
between the even the elites. It's like the that alone. It's like the elites is it's like, okay, we meet you where you at, but for some reason, right in between the elite and the peers, it was always like a language barrier for some reason.
Hmm.
We just could not seem to fit along. And I know it wasn't just me, it was really across the board. You know what I'm saying? And so I think I'm like, you know what, I believe Emmanuel's courses would really kind of uh
Bridge the
meet
gap a little.
bridge the gap. Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's why I feel so passionate about what you do. So yeah, awesome. We have some questions from the big steppers, but before we get into this, I want to go ahead and acknowledge some people who is actually very much in support of the Real Talk Recovery podcast show. All right. Let's give it up for the Oregon Health Authority, guys. If you ever wanted to look up some information, if you wanted to ever look up any type of training information from health plans, program services, license and certifications, you could always go to Oregon.gov has all this information. Oregon Health Authority is very open to receiving or even receiving phone calls from anyone requesting information of any kind, and they're definitely willing to help you with coming up with a plan to become a peer specialist or even just working in the social case management positions. Okay. So once again, go to Oregon.gov to get more information and to even look for jobs if that's something you want to do. All right. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the show. All right. All right. So this is the question I have here. Okay. So we have our topics. Let me go over our topics real quick. Topic number one is the power of authentic leadership. Two is cultural competence as a healing tool, emotional intelligence in action, turning point into power moves, and or sorry, turning pain into power moves. And then number five is redefining success after recovery.
Hmm.
And our big steppers have a question for us on the first topic. The question we have here is, why do you think being authentic is such a challenge in both the professional space and the healing process?
Mm. Hmm. You want me to answer that, or you?
That's just It
Okay.
just came out. It's my first time seeing this question. I didn't
Okay.
get the chance to read it. But why do you think authentic? Why do you think being authentic is such a challenge in both the professional spaces and the healing in the healing process? That's interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know what you think, Emmanuel, so far. I mean, I probably would think of something around that. I mean, once again, like I told y'all, it was so easy for me to relate to the clients, the peers, the our community folk, and it's only because we spoke the same language. Okay, and I'm my first language is Ebonics, and that's just keeping it
Mhm.
real, right? Just straight up out the gate. And then my parents they spoke Geechee, where they don't even say a full sentence. So I was not really taught to learn the full verbiage of or the English language completely. Grammar is way big.
What is Geechee again? What is that? Is that
It's a
like a Creole
it's
French or
it's a
something?
Creole African language.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Creole
Okay.
African language, and they just adapt. It just passed on from generation to generation, and I'm pretty much just the last generation to pick it up. And so, trying to break that type of language barrier has always been a challenge for me. So when I'm in the professional spaces, the big words I don't really understand, and then I'm too ashamed to say I don't understand this.
Hmm.
Slow down.
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
shame in between. What you think? I don't. That's for me, y'all.
What's the question though? Can you say that question again?
Oh yeah.
Because
The question is, why do you think being authentic is
uh-huh.
such a challenge in both the professional space
Yeah. I,
and the healing process?
I'll say this. The reason why I believe it's such a challenge is because our country, our nation, the West has made it. taboo or has created an environment where people's authentic culture and their expressions are hindered, they're suppressed, and the only forms of expression that are accepted or modeled are Eurocentric or white. So naturally, if you're not, European or white, your forms of expression, your understanding of self is going to be suppressed. I mean, if you look, historically at each group of color after during colonization, each group of color was told to forget their language, right? Forget their cultural beliefs, forget their spirituality system, forget their forms of government, and adopt this Eurocentric white system. So it goes from that original foundation, and then it goes and it perpetuates into our professional life. That's what it is. It's just a Eurocentric form of colonization and imperialism, but it's transcribed into our daily life. And so when we try to be who we are and express ourselves, we get this resistance. We get this resistance not only from power, but we also get this resistance from everyone else who's kind of in the matrix, who's like, oh, you shouldn't say that. You need to, So you get a lot of that, and a lot of it is subconscious. You get people that just, oh, you shouldn't. You need to say it like this, or you don't need to have your hair tied like this, or
Yeah.
they might not like that, and that it all comes from a fear-based reaction to this imperial colonist white supremacist system that we all live in and that we all see as normal. But once we start to speak about it and talk about it and understand what's going on, the mystery goes away. We can become more of ourselves, and then it's just a point of us walking in our power you know so that's my take on why it's so uncomfortable in both the professional and the healing space, for why you can't express ourselves as authentically without any resistance.
Very good. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and the second topic we have the cultural competence as healing tools. Someone asks, how can how can culturally specific folks use cultural awareness as a strength when navigating systems that weren't built for them?
Mm. That's a good
How
question.
can
What do you think? What
professional,
do you think?
because they said the original wording, whoever this was, they said color folks.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So we love you, all big steppers of all generations. We appreciate you. It's just we don't go by the colored folks anymore, but it's fine. I understand. I get it. But we are considered to be culturally specific or indigenous people, or just black people, but their question is, how can black professionals basically use cultural awareness as a strength when navigating systems that weren't built for them?
Mm.
And it's like, whew, well, I mean, that's Emanuel's question right there, because that's what
Okay, okay. Well,
I'm like.
I think if we make things simple, let's make it real simple. How
Okay.
do we use cultural competence to navigate these spaces? One is we have to know who we are on a cultural level, right?
Okay.
That's really, really important. Like first we need to know what culture is. Culture is the habits, the values, the beliefs, traditions that a particular socio-ethnic group of people uses for its survival. Okay, so
Okay.
once we know what that is, that's what culture is. Now, culture, if you are a melanated black African person, or even if you're a melanated person from South America or
Mhm.
another place, you've been partially or fully stripped of your cultural identity from colonization. So you no longer speak your language typically, right? Like we now, African Americans, we speak English, Now
But we call it Ebonics. We call it Ebonics.
you know, we
That's
got
the
we
black.
got we got people from, South America we call Latin, right? Latin America,
Oh
they
yeah,
speak
okay, I see what you're saying.
Spanish, but
Okay,
they're
I'm with you.
but
Yeah,
they're but they're indigenous. They're the Incans and Mayans. They didn't speak Spanish. You know what I mean? So all these different things,
yeah,
we have to go several layers past our normal to go find who we were before. That makes it very, very difficult,
yeah,
to know who you are because, we have to go past so many layers of colonization and socialization to find who we are. It's like, man, I got to read books. I have to study. I have to find what did my people do before Europeans came and changed everything about how we saw ourselves and lived. And it takes effort and it takes a desire. And
yeah,
what really is hard is the fact that while you have to have this desire, you're also fighting just to make ends meet, just to survive, just to have enough money to pay your bills. So when you do any extra effort or extra work, a lot of time it's not going towards this cultural understanding and competence. That's kind of where I come in. I'm like, we don't have to do everything all at once, but let's start slow. Let's start with the culture code 5-week course. Let me just kind of get you understanding the process and what happened and get your desire or your taste for your culture again in your heart because that's where it comes from. We have to want to know more about ourselves.
yeah.
And then once that desire is sparked, then we can start, thinking about how does cultural competence actually help us. Once we get that desire and we start to see that love of self, you start to really love what you did, but what your people did. You love how they used to eat with their hands because they were connected to what they ate. You love how they saw themselves as already connected to the creator, that there was no separation. You love the philosophy and the mathematics and all these different things that were created by our people, and you start to love yourself. You start to see yourself in everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we haven't had for a long time as Black African people, melanated people, is we're not seeing ourselves in the creation story. We're not seeing ourselves in all these amazing and great things that our people have created. And once you get that pride and that self-love, it makes it so much easier to make decisions. It makes it so much easier to know what to do next. But see, when you don't know yourself well, you don't know who you are, then your decision making is inconsistent.
That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
It's so true. And I took my DNA. Let me tell you, I did my
Okay.
DNA test for the
Okay.
first time. See, my parents, they said I knew what I was, but then again, I had to make sure. And it completely turned out opposite from
Oh,
what they said we were. So I'm like, maybe they didn't even know, or what the heck? So
West
anyway,
Africa, East Africa, where?
Cameroonian and Benin.
Oh, okay. Central, right? Isn't Cameroon?
That's Nigeria, some like the west
Oh,
side of Nigeria.
Okay, okay,
And then
okay,
north side, or just, yeah, east side of Africa as well, Benin.
okay, okay. Yep, in Togo. Yeah, yeah. That's so dope. And see, even just the smile, like you can tell that, like it gave you pride to just
It did.
know,
It was like, oh,
just to
that's why we
know.
like fufu. That's
Hmm.
why, we like things to be like chicken and dumpling, with certain foods, greens and all that. Because that's really like the culture, the original culture created fufu.
Hmm.
The Cameroonians created that fufu. And then Benin was known for the soupy green soup. So I don't know.
Hmm.
It was a relief.
Yeah, and it
That's
was
why I
it
even like to
probably
eat.
probably
Yeah.
feels it gives you energy too, just
Yeah, it
knowing that.
does.
And
Yeah,
so
it lit
all
my
these little
fire.
things can do that too. So that's just from you knowing about the food. But what if you knew about the inventions? What if you knew that, the fact that, certain forms of math came from, where you're from, or philosophy, or you knew that, every time you picked up a book and you knew that the language that what they call phonics, came from an African centered uh, teaching, and then you see yourself, like I talked about, you see yourself in everything.
Yeah,
You don't, and what happens is you don't need anybody to validate you. You validate yourself.
yeah,
That's where we talk about godhood. A lot of people talk about godhood and goddesshood and all that because they're just like, okay, God and whatever. Yeah. But no, but really it's really recognizing uh is recognizing your divinity in all things. It's recognizing your divinity in all things and not needing validation from another man, woman, boy, girl, child. You validate yourself.
yeah,
You sustain yourself. And that's really where I think, and you can tie that back to recovery because, we're trying to, um, when you're recovering from something, you're trying to escape, right? Certain emotions and things like that. And at some point, you have to not only just forgive yourself, right? But you have to stand up in your own divinity and realize that it's your choice. This is your life. This you stand strong in who you are. This is part of the journey. So, I think that that's a great way of just kind of understanding that. But
yeah. Recovery is based on self discovery and healing of all trauma or triggering experiences. And I think the best way you can at least start off is to get to know who are you. Who is
yes,
your ancestors. That would be the first step.
yes, yes,
And then you can
yes.
also find out your own holistic way of healing, what I'm saying, through that way. And
Oh,
that was my main
yes,
reason why I did what
yes,
I did. That was
yes.
my side of the research. You know what I'm saying? Was
Okay.
what is my proper way of healing? I want to know. So I'm about to go ahead and take this test. And
Yeah,
I'm so proud that I did that.
that's great.
Emanuel, can I ask you to go ahead and go ahead and give the people, how can we find you? Um, how can we
Yeah.
contact you if we wanted to sign up for courses? What's the process in that?
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, my website is emmanuelsolomon.com. That's Emanuel Solomon Solomon.com. Emmanuelsolomon.com. And then if you want to book a consultation with me, I do one free consultation. You can go to what is it? I don't know why I'm not thinking of um calendly.com / Emmanuel Solomon 03. So you can just go straight to the website and book a consultation. So there's a couple ways that you can find me.
Thank you so much. Y'all, we're going to go ahead and end this particular Zoom live video. It is recorded. You can always find this Zoom video on YouTube. All of Mr. Emanuel Solomon's information will be attached to the YouTube description box, as well as in Podbean. We are still currently on Podbean Live. I'm going to go ahead and ask Emanuel to merge into Podbean And so we can go ahead and continue this interview. Okay. All righty. Thank y'all so much. God bless. Bye bye.